Raise them to be what? How do you raise someone like that? Well, those were her values, and they had looked at him and said, you know, no way, Jose, and they decided they were going to go a different way. So that part does come to us, but in the beginning, the bar is the bar, people. In our country, it's at a certain place. Other countries, it's at different places. Here, you're innocent till you're proven guilty. In France and in Mexico, you're guilty till you prove yourself innocent. It's called the French law. They grew up with it. They're okay with it. In Europe, little kids from the earliest days will drink alcohol at the kitchen table during meals. They have a little bit of wine. They're taught so they don't abuse it. And it's just part of their culture. I remember the first time we went up to laundry room in Würzburg, 10 o'clock, the ladies, mostly ladies were doing laundry, they'd have a beer break. It was built into their contract. They'd have these big brown bottles and have these plastic tops with metal that you could pop and reuse, and they would pop the top and sit there, and we'd have beer with them for 15 minutes, and the break was over, they'd go back to work. 3 o'clock, they'd have another beer break. Can you imagine that happening? No. Is it time for my beer break yet? No, your boss would fire you. Different cultures, different values. But whatever the values are, that's where the bar is. So we understand that too? Okay. I don't want to gloss over them, but utilitarianism, number 4, is expedient. That means self-serving for the individual and unprincipled at times when it comes to virtues like telling the truth or lying. And the answer to that is simply no. Most of us know no lying, stealing, cheating, raping, robbing, and once in a while, you've got to break the rule. Anybody never tell a white lie in here? I talk about that, about one of you getting pregnant and bringing a little critter in. Have I said that in here? Yeah, you bring that little critter in here, I'm going to lie right through my teeth. Isn't she pretty and isn't he handsome? Oh, yeah. That thing just spent 9 months in saline solution. You know, you spend 3 hours, did I say that you spend 3 hours in a beach and your fingers look like prunes? That thing looks like a wet frog. But in 3 days, it's just, yeah, you bring them back in again, bring her, oh, what a cutie that is, you bet. And I won't be lying, but the first time through, you bet I'm going to lie to you. I don't want to insult you. So if you really follow the principle of utility, we're not expedient the few times that we choose to tell a little white lie. Now, if we make a habit of lying, what happens? Well, you become an outcast socially. Your word can't be trusted. You're no good. Unless you want to live with a bunch of liars, I don't know what that's going to produce. Then the last one I want to talk about is, or at least in this, is there's no time previous to action for calculating and weighing the effects of my line of conduct on the general happiness. Again, people we know, no lying, stealing, cheating, raping, robbing. We have those rules because those rules generally make more people happy than unhappy. And you may not have known them when you popped out of the oven, got put in a box, but it wasn't too long before you figured that out. First time you did something wrong, don't lie to me, right? You better be telling me the truth. And we learned consequences, and we just decided that we're going to adopt the actions necessary to be in a general sense of relationship and peace with one another. So those are all criticisms. None of them really understand utilitarianism, or they wouldn't be criticisms. However, the one criticism that is a true criticism is how do we calculate happiness? And I've talked about this to you before. How do we calculate happiness? Is there a little machine we punch in numbers and it comes up with whatever's happy? And the answer to that is no, because we're involved with people. And when we're involved with people, we have to deal with subjective values, values that we can't quantify, values that don't fit into a neat little box for us. We want it to be in the box, that's how it works. But we don't live in the box in that sense. Too many things go on in life. And how do we calculate that happiness? You follow me? So it lacks a true calculator. But we have to deal with that. We use this more than anything else. We use the principle of utility more than anything else. It has its shortcomings, and the biggest shortcoming is calculation. So I want to play a video for you. It's about 9 minutes. Watch it from beginning to end. It's a professor. He's in Harvard. He's got 400 kids in his audience, so he's got a few people to talk back and forth to him. And when we're done, I want to ask you some very specific questions about what he shared. Okay? No test. This is not a test. Just... That's not the one I want. I want it back here. are you going to give this to me?
Off to the right.
This timed out, didn't it? Some days I could just spit at this technology.
But it's going to make our life so much better.
Actually, this was a really good, yeah, I know, yeah, I know. It's not even going to let me quit. Let me see if it'll do it here now. This whole thing timed out on me. Okay, give me a minute, people, see if I can get this thing to respond. You've got to be kidding me. There we go. I have text down the hallway. I bet they're using up the bandwidth right now. You are really ticking me off. Well, what do you know?
Last time, we argued about the case of the Queen versus Dudley and Stevens. The lifeboat case. This is a course about justice, and we begin with a story. Suppose you're the driver of a trolley car, and your trolley car is hurtling down the track at 60 miles an hour. And at the end of the track, you notice 5 workers working on the track. You try to stop, but you can't. Your brakes don't work. You feel desperate because you know that if you crash into these 5 workers, they will all die. Let's assume you know that for sure. And so you feel helpless until you notice that there is, off to the right, a side track. And at the end of that track, there's one worker working on the track. Your steering wheel works, so you can turn the trolley car, if you want to, onto the side track, killing the one, but sparing the 5. Here's our first question. What's the right thing to do? What would you do? Let's take a poll. How many would turn the trolley car onto the side track? Raise your hands. How many wouldn't? How many would go straight ahead? Keep your hands up, those of you who would go straight ahead. A handful of people would. The vast majority would turn. Let's hear first. Now we need to begin to investigate the reasons why you think it's the right thing to do. Let's begin with those in the majority who would turn to go onto the side track. Why would you do it? What would be your reason? Who's willing to volunteer a reason? Go ahead, stand up.
Because it can't be right to kill 5 people when you can only kill 1 person instead.
It wouldn't be right to kill 5 if you could kill 1 person instead. That's a good reason. That's a good reason. Who else? Does everybody agree with that reason? Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking it's the same reason on 9/11 with regard to people who flew the plane into the Pennsylvania field as heroes because they chose to kill the people in the plane and not kill more people in big buildings.
So the principle there was the same on 9/11. It's a tragic circumstance, but better to kill one and so that 5 can live. Is that the reason most of you had, those of you who would turn? Yes? Let's hear now from those in the minority, those who wouldn't turn. Yes?
Well, I think that's the same type of mentality that justifies genocide and totalitarianism. In order to save one type of race, you wipe out the other.
So what would you do in this case? You would, to avoid the horrors of genocide, you would crash into the 5 and kill them?
Presumably, yes.
You,
Yeah.
okay, who else? That's a brave answer. Thank you. Let's consider another trolley car case and see whether those of you in the majority want to adhere to the principle, better that one should die so that 5 should live. This time you're not the driver of the trolley car, you're an onlooker. You're standing on a bridge overlooking a trolley car track. And down the track comes a trolley car. At the end of the track are 5 workers. The brakes don't work. The trolley car is about to careen into the 5 and kill them. And now, you're not the driver. You really feel helpless until you notice, standing next to you, leaning over the bridge, is a very fat man. And you could give him a shove. He would fall over the bridge, onto the track, right in the way of the trolley car. He would die, but he would spare the 5. Now, how many would push the fat man over the bridge? Raise your hand. How many wouldn't? Most people wouldn't. Here's the obvious question. What became of the principle? Better to save 5 lives even if it means sacrificing 1. What became of the principle that almost everyone endorsed in the first case? I need to hear from someone who was in the majority in both cases. How do you explain the difference between the two? Yes?
The second one, I guess, involves an active choice of pushing the person down, which I guess that person himself would otherwise not have been involved in the situation at all. And so to choose on his behalf, I guess, to involve him in something that he otherwise would have escaped is, I guess, more than